The Christian cross has been around for more than 1,000 years BC. Depicted throughout Europe, this symbol holds a secret nobody is aware of. Did our ancient brothers use this symbol as a conductor of electricity? Is this, in other words, a capacitor which holds stored energy? In this video, we will be diving deeper into these topics and going into more detail about electricity. The cross is one of the first symbols ever found on Earth. There are, in general, a dozen of different types of crosses, however, from Greek to Latin. All cultures around the world have a different way of depicting it. Many people and religions of the world were aware of the existence of life energy, and they each called it in their own way. The cross holds the absolute number one position as the base of all human creation. Its meaning is transverse in enigma. Perhaps the most interesting of all discoveries which relates to the cross can be found in the Rosetta Stone. It displays two lines which crisscross horizontally. These two lines represent the two genders, male and female. The two genders are what create life, and it is this union that causes creation to happen. The union of man and female crossing to create life. When we look at the Christian cross, we can see that it is a plus sign, which stands for balance. It also stands for spirit, and the vertical line going down represents will, force, and embodiment. So it is the perfect balance of willful actions. Being in complete faith is not easy, because you have to be conscious all the time and willful to stay balanced. The horizontal line represents the material, the vertical represents the celestial, the spiritual. The spiritual should be more important than the material, so we do not need to take care of our basic necessities, where the material goal is not the main attention and the union with God is the most important. Matthew 16. He was transfigured and his garment turned to bright white light. In essence, the sun. The sphere is the sun. And when you make the sign of the cross, you are holding the spiritual above the material, from right to left. The right being the first, as it's the righteousness, and the left side is symbolic for going to the wrong side, the dark side. It is the basis of all of life force energy that we can tap into. In Satanism, the cross flipped upside down is the control of the spiritual over the material. With the cross coming into the existence, all miracles happen. The cross can also be changed into a torus field. Similarly, the cross can be folded up into a cube, the Metatronic cube. This is a force of good or bad, depending on which way you want to use it. The torus field is the reflection of universal geometry. The torus can be seen throughout many of nature's wonders. The shape of the electromagnetic field is what creates many of the structures within nature. The torus field sphere is an electromagnetic wave, traveling from its wave to its source. Something miraculous happens, which is the plasma field of the Father portal crossing through to the middle first axis, which is the creation sprout of existence. And this goes through the highest point of the dome ceiling above the earth. The other end goes through to the underworld, thus creating the magnetic north and the magnetic south. The North Star, Polaris, begins at the center and turns out to its axis from the northern to the southern hemisphere. Like a giant torus inside the dome, the infinite power of the ether can be tapped into through the spirals. Prior to the cross, life as we know it did not exist, because without ether there is nothing to build upon and nothing to sustain life in the empty vacuum of space. Even the most crucial element of creation, its four elements, fire, air, water, and earth, they make up the existence. Life force, energy, prana, which is basically the creation of God through the breath. That makes the breath special and sacred. Because the breath is invisible, we are inhaling pure energy, pure ether, which gives us life and energy force. In essence, this ether is what is feeding us, and we need it just like plants to survive. This makes the cross the first sacred geometry element because it's made of pure energy, and it might mean that when you cross over, you're going to the other side, so it's like a crossing over. The energy can be neither created or destroyed. This is a well-known fact in physics. If energy can be neither created or destroyed, then all power plants of the world, gas, hydro, wind, they do not create energy, but they collect ether energy present in the atmosphere. From old pictures, we see that these buildings did not have any cabling and thus were potentially making their own wireless energy, and the cross was acting as the spiral point, as a capacitor, forming and creating this energy. And as we know, capacitors are able to store energy in electrical devices. Capacitors are widely used as parts of electrical circuits in many common electrical devices. This capacitor stores energy in the form of electrostatic energy. The relationship between magneticism and electricity is called electromagnetism. It is this form of electricity which attracts the positive and the negative within the atom, and thus causing a funnel of energy to be able to spiral from the capacitor. And when the capacitor is charged, the electrical field is created between the two crosses that form the capacitor plate. A current through any wire will create a magnetic field. Perhaps the most interesting are of these monks from Bulgaria and Russia who depicted the capacitor. My granddad was a priest, a very famous one, and he did tell me about this symbol. Here we see the symbol holding the secrets of the atmospheric energy, possibly a design of Tesla's. As we've mentioned earlier, the cross can be changed into multi-dimensional geometric shapes. Another one of these shapes can be the swastika. The swastika represents the two lines that crisscross from the North Star. One of my favorite pictures of all time is this of Buddha 500 years before Christ. Here we can see that the swastika is a plus. So the ends of the plus are bent. And what it actually is a Christian gamadion. It's just simply portraying the most sacred symbol, but also forgotten symbol of our time. Maybe the most famous of all can be seen in ancient Egypt with the ankh. The ankh was symbolized as a key. This is the Syrian sigil, allegedly dating back to the 2nd millennium BC. The center of the sigil, we can see the ankh with a loop on top of a facility to use a pendulum. Many similarities can be found within the ancient god Osiris. Egyptian pictures refer to evangelical events. This is Osiris rising from the dead after having been buried for 3 days. He is portrayed at the moment of his resurrection, stepping out of the coffin. Next to him, we can see his wife and sister. Another Egyptian deity is handling a cross to the rising Osiris, the resurrection of Osiris. This occurs on the 3rd day after his death. And here we can see the ancient Egyptian lion deities Shu and Tefnut with the Christian cross between them. Perhaps the most famous story is that of Jesus. Apparently, the name derives from the cross. When Jesus was asked, "Who are you?" he replied, "Yes, Sam Christos. I am the cross, the highest being of the order of the universe. The 2 lines are pure ether." Orthodox Christians make the sign of the cross for their confession of the faith in God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. By doing this sign, you're acknowledging the only way. The Church encourages Christians to make the sign of the cross whenever they're faced with temptations and demonic assaults. As soon as one mentions the word Christ and signs his cross over his head, the demons fled straight away. You see these shapes all over the world. They symbolized the capacitor. This was the worshipping of the ether, because we are electrical beings. They knew about the power that could harness through the ether. They understood the secrets of the universe. What we give, we receive. How we act is how it returns. Much like a porous. I've really enjoyed making this video. If you found it informative, then give me a like, give me a share, and thank you for listening.